Thank you, David. First, I thought I'd give a little bit of history about the council that I know, and maybe this is repeat for a lot of you, and I apologize if it is. But the council was started in 1995, and it was Carl Frank's idea. And of course, Carl lives here, and I think most of you guys know him. And he called me and said, "Hey, we should start having this meeting like this." And I said, "Oh yeah, great idea." So I wrote to some of the other bridge leaders at TxDOT and said, "Hey, would you guys participate?" And everybody was very willing, including especially David McDonald, who's here, who was at Bridge Division at the time, and said, "Yeah, we should do this." So, this is going to be great. And then the meeting was approaching, and I suddenly realized, oh, I need to get an agenda together. What are we going to talk about? I got nothing. So I started getting really nervous. And I got a call from Randy Foyle, who at that time was with Trinity Industries, which was a bridge fabricator at the time in Houston. And he said, "Hey, Ronnie, I don't know what you're planning, but we ought to get Walter Gatti in to do a presentation." And I just wanted something on the agenda. So I said, "Yeah, that's great." So Walter came, and he opened our first meeting with the Quality Council. So he's got quite a history with this group. Walter was a steel bridge detailer. Now, I was with TxDOT for many years. I was with Materials and Tests until 2001, and then Bridge Division from 2001 to 2006. But in 2006, I went to High Steel, which we're a fabricator. And it was only then that I realized how crucial the shop drawings are to a fabricator. I always knew that. I mean, I'd done inspection and we'd looked at the drawings, but I came to discover what happens is it's through that developing the shop drawing process that the fabricator establishes, here's how we're going to actually fabricate this job, and here's how we're going to go about it. Here's the equipment we're going to use. Here's the work center we're going to use. For example, at High Steel, we got 4 places we do girders and different pieces of machine that do CNC, etc. All of that stuff has to be discussed and decided up front. There's about 1,000 or 2,000 decisions that are made on a typical job that you got to do. And it all has to go into the shop drawings. And the shop drawings have got to be perfect as far as the shop is concerned. You can't do a job like when I do something in my garage and I get started and, oh, I'm going to run to Lowe's for more material, and, oh, I didn't think about what kind of screw I'm going to need. In the shop, you can't work that way. The steel's got to get in there and it's got to move and you got to get done. You have to do all that up front. So the drawings are all of those instructions, and especially the geometry. So if you think about how steel bridges changed, in the 20s and 30s, you had the American bridges doing those real big trusses, etc. And then we went into an era where there was a lot of rolled beams, very straight crossings, rural creek crossings. Interstate came along and we started going to more overpasses, started doing ramps, and it was really use of plate and welded plate that changed what you could do with bridges. That really brought in plate girders, and that fundamentally changed bridges entirely. So that's really what we do. But how do you understand the geometry going from a simple 60-foot, I got some W shapes, to I got 120, 130, 200-foot spans with curved, cambered plate girders? The designers give you your final condition and they give you your deflections, or your cambers. We're always thinking about deflections, right? But how do you put all of that together to create that no-load situation that the fabricator needs to build those girders? There's a lot of really complicated geometry. And Walter was one of the pioneers who figured out all of that and led the industry through those changes. It was not without the Walters, and especially him in the lead, that without him, we would not have had that transition to the steel bridges that we have today, plate girders, etc. So in 2001, Bridge Division said, hey, or 2002, I guess, decided, oh, we need to do some awards. I think the administration at the time said, hey, well, you guys should be doing more awards. And we said, let's do this industry award. Let's honor the people in industry who helped the DOTs. And so Walter was nominated and got the first one. And so you see this, at the time it was called the Bridge Carry Audit Award. And the Carry Audit Award was for an industry person who make significant contributions to the DOT in terms of helping us or helping the DOTs do their work. And, you know, that's the thing about Walter is he was always ready to help, whether it was the DOT or the fabricator or the designer. There's been a lot of bridges where they're really complicated stuff, and people would say, well, how are we going to go about doing this? And they would call Walter, and Walter would come in. He's kind of a flashy guy. You see his pictures. He had made a ton of money in real estate in Florida, and so he was independently wealthy, and he had his own plane, and he would fly around, which helped him do his job because he was a sub detailer to a lot of fabricators across the country. And so, you know, he would just go there. A couple of times I got to ride with him, and he was the pilot. He and Rocco's a co-pilot, which I thought was kind of cool. But, you know, he understood that geometry. He had a lot of flair, but he was especially good at sharing what he knew with the community, nationally and certainly in terms of TxDOT. So, you know, I know it came up that, you know, he passed away recently and we wanted to honor him today. So I thought, well, I'll make those remarks. And I know some of you guys know him personally. I'm not sure how much time we have, David, but I guess we could have others who maybe want to make a couple of remarks. Should we do that? Does anyone else remember Walter and want to say anything? Yeah, Carl.
I did light it up. I did, wasn't afraid of talking. And Ronnie was talking about the geometry problem. If you ever look at the cutting of that web of that curved subgirder, you won't recognize it. It's hammered in the wrong direction, it's all wrong. But he figured out how to do it. There was a time when those subgirders first were going in that you brought that up at a meeting with fabricators, they'd say, I don't want to see one of those. Because nobody knew how to really detail it. And that's where you went. You went to Walter. And then his disciples then went on from that. But geometry of that web, think of a slanted web on a vertical curve and a horizontal curve. How you're going to cut it so that the girder comes out right. It doesn't look like it should work, but it works.
And I know he had to sometimes do convincing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's certainly pivotal in our history. Anyone else? Yeah, Steve.
Yeah, you know, one of the things I remember is Walter saved us a lot as a designer. He would come in and he would ask questions on the shop floor that weren't accusatory, but if he asked a question that you really didn't pay attention to the question he asked because he was getting at something, you know, and he just had a way about it. You said convincing, or Carl, but he was very convincing, and he knew he was right, but he would not really rub that in. It'd ask you a question and make you think about it and give him an answer. Say, you're right, Walter.
You know, the bottom line was he was so passionate about steel bridges. And I don't think he could have achieved what he achieved or helped people the way he did, except that he loved bridges and he wanted them to be right. And so that pushed him. And he scolded quite a few engineers along the way. You know, he didn't do it Walter's way. But he knew what he was doing. Randy, you wanted to comment?
Yeah, basically what you just said. Walter was one of these people, he knew what he was doing, and he let you know that he knew what he was doing.
He did.
But, which I told Ronnie this before, some people, you meet them for the first time, you either respect them or just the opposite. Walter was one of these people you knew once you talked to him for just a few moments, this is the one guy you respect.
Yeah, you could tell that right away. And that's what made him so pivotal. Yeah, he understood, he knew, he communicated it very well. He was very dedicated to our community, to steel bridges. He helped fabricators like us, DOTs across the country, and certainly TxDOT and Steel Quality Council. He was at that first meeting, his first person on the agenda. And he came to many meetings after. He would fly in from Florida for the Texas Quality Council. So certainly owe that gratitude to Walter. All right?
Sure.
Okay.